Dear students, I'm Dr. Pamela Disability once again, taking you through this course unit, Special Needs and Inclusive Education. In the previous session, we learned about the trends and history of education of children with disabilities, where we looked at right stage, segregated stage, integration stage, and inclusive stage. In the present session, we are going to discuss the disability models and their contribution to special needs and inclusive education. Disability is viewed differently by different people. So before we start, let's hear from you. What is your views about disability? Write your response and share with each other. Disability models and its contribution to disability inclusion. The first model is medical disability model. The medical model of disability arose from a biomedical perception of disability, where disability was looked at as a sickness. This model links a disability diagnosis to an individual's physical body. The model supposes that this disability may reduce the individual's quality of life, and the aim is with medical intervention. This disability will be diminished or corrected. So the medical model focuses on curing or managing illnesses or disability. The next model is the charity model of disability. The charity model, like the medical model, sees impairment or disability as the problem. The person with disability has fallen victim to the impairment and is pitied. So they look at them as if they cannot do anything. In this model, children with disabilities are seen as weak or unable to do things. The charity model is often used by charities and corporate social responsibility programs who want to help persons with disabilities by giving assistive devices or other support to poor or vulnerable persons. So they look at them, pitying them, thinking they cannot do anything, thinking they are weak, and therefore they need support. And the next model is the social model of disability. The social model of disability is the preferred model used by most organizations of persons with disabilities. It was created by persons living with disability and aims to promote inclusion and remove unnecessary barriers that prevent persons with disabilities from participating in society or accessing work and living independently. So it looks at a person with disability to socialize, to be able to participate within the environment and within the social setting. Then the next model is the human rights model of disability. This one looks at the human rights. So if every person is a human and has a human right, then persons with disabilities too have human rights. And therefore, if anyone affects or disorganizes the activities for disability can easily be sued because it's a human right. This model exists because the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities explains the steps that all governments must take to uphold and protect the rights of persons with disabilities. The model focuses on the basic human rights, principles which recognize that disability is a natural part of human diversity and must be respected and supported in all its forms. It also focuses that persons with disabilities have the same rights like any other person in society. Important human rights conventions relevant to children with disabilities are the Convention on the Rights of Child, the Sustainable Development, the Convention on Persons with the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the SDG goals, especially goal number 4, which aims at inclusive education for all. So when it's a human rights, if children with disabilities are denied access to education, they can sue the school and they know that they are violating their rights. The last model is the cultural model of disability. The cultural model of disability looks at disability as the history and the culture of societies in response to persons with disabilities. They look at how a person with disability is named, what role the person has in the family and community, and how the person participates in day-to-day life. So the cultural model looks at the naming of children, and this one would look at the disability, and they name you according to the disability. In conclusion, in most African cultural models of disability, persons with disabilities were looked after by their community. So they were not given rights to marry, they were not considered they can own their own families. So in African society, they could give them to the community to be looked after. Sometimes even when they were giving allocation of property, they would not allocate to a person with disability. They would say this one will be taken care of, either a brother or a sister. So they are not allocated. And were included in daily activities, and sometimes were even seen to have supernatural powers. This was the traditional thinking that persons with disabilities may have supernatural powers, and it also happened where they were thinking they cannot get sick, and they ended up getting sick of HIV because people with HIV were saying if you go to a child or a person with disability, you get healed of HIV. Those are the African cultural models of understanding of disability. Sometimes persons with disabilities were also excluded from communities. So cultural models emphasize the importance of reciprocity and participation in community activities and events. So as we end this session, it is important for us to know what persons with disabilities need so that we advocate for their rights and support them. Persons with disabilities just like any other person, they need to feel included, to feel loved, and feel or have a sense of belonging. They need food, they need shelter, they need health care. Sometimes they will need extra health services specific for their impairment, such as physical or occupational therapy, speech and language therapies, or they use assistive devices such as wheelchairs, crutches, hearing aids, among others. Some children with disabilities have been significantly more disadvantaged, especially during the COVID pandemic, when they were learning online. Children with disabilities, especially those with visual impairment and those with hearing impairment, if they are teaching on radio, a child with hearing impairment is left out. If they are teaching using TVs, a child with visual impairment is left out. And we need to take account of this in all our planning, so that when we are planning for education, we consider the needs of different categories of persons with disabilities. In groups, you will reflect on different models and identify which one you would use to advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities. After this lesson, you will go to discuss those and identify and reflect on these models, and you will be able to present or share in the next session that we are going to have. Thank you.